On the wrong way. We'll see if we can change that. I gotta move parking lots. Of course, it's late enough that I gotta. Yeah, 9:50. It's almost 10 o'clock. There's a little bit of a lull in the storm, and I'm gonna take advantage of that. With these folks here not acting appropriately or in accordance with the law, it is a dangerous situation for me. With mandated reporters going out of their way to lie about what their job is to somebody who is well aware and has done a lot of research, not just on the internet, by the way. I speak with the local folks as well. I want to know what the hell I'm talking about. And I want to make sure that I have evidence that I'm not the only one who's going through this, the only one who's getting blown off, the only one who's getting sent elsewhere or told to go elsewhere repeatedly over and over again. There's a lot of people going through it. Now the wind has been getting pretty loud here, and it's actually been loud enough that I was unable to actually hear anything a couple of times. I'm setting my phone on my jacket, which is soaking wet, and that's because I got the stuff on my roof strapped to the ceiling by running it through where the doors are attached, and as a result the cordage separates the rubber seal just a little bit from the metal, which is supposed to create a seal when it closes. We've had a couple of flickers now. I don't know if that's lightning somewhere, but I don't hear any thunder. Now it is a bit of a lull in the storm. And right as I was getting ready to hit the enter button, it started. That's when the first flicker happened. Now there's kind of a smell during a thunderstorm. That's because of the pressure differential that happens. And what we've got here, if this was Nebraska, this would actually be perfect weather for a tornado. But we're also nestled between some pretty tall peaks here. Sure, they're at pretty close to ocean level, but they rise up pretty rapidly. So although they're not as high up as the Rockies, they're definitely some Rockies type terrain. Whereas over on the East Coast, not so much. Over on the East Coast, though, the East Coast and the West Coast both have very similar foliage and ground cover that the Rockies definitely do not have at any point. I can feel and smell the pressure differential. I'm not sure how many of you have ever been around when there's thunderstorms and stuff like that, but there's definitely a smell that goes with it. And that smell is actually an adaptation that's happening with your eardrums. And that adaptation with your eardrums does adjust the way that you taste things and the way that you smell things for a period. The only way I can describe it is, and although this isn't even close to the same thing, it is similar. It's like when you fall off the swing and you smack the back of your head on the ground. The kind of sinus nasal feeling that you get when you jolt like that. It's like a really super mild sensation like that. Sometimes it'll make you sneeze. I've had a few old farmers tell me they can tell when the weather is coming before they ever get out of bed because their bones hurt and they sneeze a lot. That sneezing is a result of the pressure difference. Now, I've felt the pressure a couple of times change today, and the reason I say felt it is because even though the only sensation that I had to let me know that there's a storm is the kind of smell thing and a little bit of weirdness in my ears, that weirdness in the ears is what gives you an indication that you're changing in altitude or obviously changing in pressure if you're changing in altitude. Now, for me, I didn't just tell on the cops here for not doing their jobs. I recorded them not doing their jobs. I'm an at-risk adult, and not only did they put me at further risk, they went out of their way to make sure that that happened. They have also committed enough crimes in front of me, not only between the crimes committed by officers themselves, including the assault against a 14-year-old girl, but also the demeanor of those who were there at the time, who also had badges, and the demeanor of the people who work at the hospital, who obviously know those people well. They're sending me right back to the services that sent me to them. How amazing is it? They're sending me to Tides of Change. They're sending me to CARE. They're sending me to all of these places that I've been to already. And then, of course, there's the heroin hotel. I don't know what else to call it. I'm told that you can only go there if you're clean, right? Which I am. Shouldn't be a problem. But then I'm told, well, you can only go there if you're a heroin addict, because if you're not a heroin addict, you're not going to fit in. I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty screwed up. How do you get away from that situation? If you're supposed to go there as a homeless person for a homeless shelter, how is that going to work out? Well, it's going to result in people who are desperate, who are addicts, who steal your shit. They'll steal you blind until you have to leave. So you don't have a choice in the matter. You think you're trying to get services, and you go to these places, and you spend all the resources, and in the end, you end up getting screwed because the resources aren't for you. They're either for felons, or they're for drug addicts, or they're for people with kids, or they're for veterans, or they're for gay people, or they're for lesbians exclusively, or, of course, they're for blacks only, or for Native Americans only, or they're a special interest group trying to get you to pay attention to anti-Semitism, but not anti-Semitism against the homeless. We got groups that want to point out to you about how hate crimes against the Asians are on the rise. When I say the Asians, the reason that I group them together is because that's how it is grouped to us. All Asians. Whether they're Filipino, or Japanese, or Chinese, or Korean. We kind of fail to make that distinction here sometimes too, don't we? When we want to hate on Muslims, so we're just assuming anybody that's brown-skinned must be Muslim. Well, it's not as popular now to hate Muslims, is it? No, it's not. And thank goodness people finally came to their senses. You know, I screamed at the top of my lungs that gay people are people too. I screamed at the top of my lungs that black people are people too. Jewish people are people too. That whole Asians thing, that's kind of like Americans tending to call anybody who speaks Spanish a Mexican. Or any language that closely resembles Spanish. Why has everybody got to be a Mexican? There are a lot of nations on the planet that are Spanish speaking that are not Mexico. And why you got to hate on Mexicans? We got a lot of Mexicans, right? That's your excuse? Well, we got a lot of Americans too. And Canada's got a lot of Americans. Do you know why Canada's got so many Americans? Because they're hopping the border. How many folks on my YouTube channel that I told you were witnesses to the situation, how many of them are recorded on my channel talking about hopping the border? Talking about getting the hell out of this country and never coming back? And actually actively pursuing that, trying to leave the country. Of course they are, and why wouldn't they? Why would they rather get out of the country than come forward and tell the truth? Well, it's because of their fears of everything that's going on. All the hate mongering. You know, when the rest of us are going through a recession or a depression, those in our government still get paid, regardless. They're still fed, regardless. They have assistance, regardless. They pass their laws, regardless. Regardless of if you're even capable of feeding yourself or your children, they're fine. Because they don't feel the economic hardship. They don't feel it. Let's say you got your real super expensive beluga caviar, and now you probably spend $20,000 or $30,000 an ounce on some crap. Now you have to stick with the $180 a friggin' pound special salmon that's probably poached from somewhere. You know, that's not economic hardship. Economic hardship is, you know, that can of baked beans that's in your fridge or in your cupboard, wherever it happens to be. Yeah, that you're going to have to stretch that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner tomorrow, because it's the only thing in the house. You might have some ketchup packages that are in one of your junk drawers. You might better go look. There might be a salt or pepper thing that you got from Wendy's last year in there somewhere too. You find some sort of seasoning in there, luckily. That's your damn dinner for a day. We got a kind of a lull in the storm. It's not even close to as windy as it was. I'm trying to find my keys so I can relocate to a more appropriate place for the night. One of the things about people telling me to go do this stuff at the library and go do it at the Starbucks is that it's not appropriate to do these things there. I've been told and I've been warned. You can't do that stuff in a library or in a Starbucks or any establishment. When you're talking about rape and murder, like, it fucking freaks people out. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. And that's the point right there. Yeah, people know that it's going on. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to be reminded. And when one of their friends is going through it, they don't want to be reminded that it could happen to them. A lot of times when I give people a tiny taste of how I get treated, oh my God, do they flip their shit while telling me just to let it go, and they flip their shit. And I say, see, you didn't take your own advice, did you? Nobody likes that either, do they? They don't like it being thrown in their face. Like when the cops tell you, hey, that's not illegal. And I go, really? And I do it. And lo and behold, apparently it is. And some of these cases Just threatening to do something is against the law. Even though other people have actually done those things to you, you're not even allowed to threaten to do that back to them. They can literally just pretend that you might threaten them. Or twist your words and rewrite things that you said in their own words. Therefore, it's not something that I said, it's something that they said. So they're putting words in my mouth with no evidence and no proof, and you are literally letting them get away with it. You are literally allowing them to get away with these things. You want to tell me, oh, I'm sorry that's happening. You want to talk about how it's bad in general. You say, oh, well, I can't help everyone. Don't offer if you're not gonna. I don't care how many other people that you made the offer to. You shouldn't have made the offer if you didn't intend on keeping your word. And if you're not going to keep your word, you know, those of you who send me friend requests and want to be friends of mine on Facebook, you need to leave. You're not my friends. You're not helping. You're making things worse. Because I have to expose you. I have to show that I was trying to get help the entire time. Whether you want to keep your name private or not, I have to. Whether you want to keep it private or not, it is going to court. If it goes to court, then yes, absolutely, people are going to start looking. The preservation of evidence is what needs to be paid attention to. Preserving the evidence that's left. Making sure that it's not destroyed. Unfortunately, people got a lot of motivation for trying to destroy their words, when, of course, their words turned out to be bullshit. When they wanted to hide their involvement. Well, you don't get to do that. I don't get to do that. That doesn't keep you or anyone else safe. Hiding the truth does not stop the predators. Pretending it isn't happening does not stop the predators. You know who gives you the advice of pretending it's not happening? People who aren't having to endure it. Just pretend it's not happening, pretend it's not happening, pretend it's not happening. We get wishful thinking in movies of that sort, don't we? There's no place like home. There is no place like home. There's no place like home. Apparently that charger doesn't work and I can't find my key, which is just incredibly dumb. I can't travel to another parking lot as long as I can't find my key, and I've been looking for it for friggin' ever. And I just realized that alright, so I got two of these, right? They're both identical. One of them will not work on my phone for some odd fucking reason. The other one will. So I gotta try to find that one. I've had my light on for... Jesus Christ. Alright, I had my glasses right on my forehead, didn't I? It was a snake, I would have bit it. Guess where my key is, folks? It's in my ignition. I forgot that I separated the rest of everything from my keys because it was being a pain in the ass about turning on. There I go. Yes! Ka-ching! All my keys and stuff. So, it's 10:09. Everybody's, pretty well closed up shop, I'm sure. They're closed over here at the McDonald's. Looks like I have 0 gasoline. That probably means, hopefully, depending on where the float got stuck this time, hopefully it means I still have some gas. But it might not. when y'all say we need to do better, we need to do better. We don't need to do better. We need to pick up the individual cases instead of bitching in general that something is wrong. We need to help the people who are going through these situations. General about how it's wrong, but do the same thing as everyone else away and just fucking generalize. When the victim tries to come forward at the abuse, you all do the same thing. You want to be freedom fighters, you fight for freedom. You don't want to get your hands dirty. It's not getting your hands dirty. It's trying to use the system the way that it's meant to be used. It's meant for somebody who is victimized to be able to get help. But that only works if you care enough to go in with the victim. That only works if you care. Otherwise, there is too much room for corruption, too much leeway for corruption. And much of that corruption stems from screw-ups who are lazy and didn't do their fucking job. And then when something major happens, they want to hide it. It's got to be someone else's fault. And law enforcement is damn good at doing that. You guys tell me I got to go to law enforcement. You tell me that law enforcement wouldn't lie. Then you tell me that law enforcement is allowed to lie if they want to. And then you tell me I have to trust the law. And I'm explaining to you the law has been lying to me. I know what the laws are. I've been looking them up and researching them. Yes, I absolutely do know this shit. I've got law enforcement officers all over America admitting that I'm telling the truth about what the laws are in those particular places for a reason, because I am right. We've also got recordings of people that, when I didn't tell them that I knew what the laws were, they wanted to lie to me about what the laws were, and then play stupid, and then play victim. No, homie, don't play that. But then again, these aren't their friends that are dead, are they? These are my friends who are dead. Well, since my friends are dead, and I'm not happy about it, here's how it is. Homie, don't fucking play that. If you want to be a coward and look the other way, that is your choice. But I am going to do my best to show this corruption, and that it is long-term, and that I have not had the assistance that is required by law, and that the laws themselves are not followed by any of the people who are supposed to be enforcing it. I can show and prove people's motives and motivations for each of the decisions that they made, because people are simple to understand. When you find out that somebody has an imperfection or a flaw, automatically you think that you are better than them. It's an automatic trigger in your brain. When you see somebody who is automatically lesser in your mind than you are, and you see them having something, it mortifies you, it terrifies you. Why are they worthy? Why do I not have that? Why don't you have that? Why did you spend all that money on ballet class? Why did you spend all that money learning how to play the guitar and take lessons? Why did you buy all those Magic the Gathering cards? Why are you motivated by what you're motivated? Why do you think something is beautiful? Something so beautiful that you would invest your time and your energy into. And for many of you people, that is absolutely material things. For me, material things are a means to an end. Things that are important to me are human beings. The same human beings you claim to care about, human beings like me. But when it comes to getting actively involved, do you ever? Especially when it's a homeless or disabled person. Do you make the excuse of, oh, well, you're not black. Well, what if they are black? You say, oh, well, you're not a woman. Well, what if they are a woman? Well, you're not LGBT. Well, what if they are LGBT? Well, you're not Native American. What if they're that too? Oh, well, you couldn't know what it's like to be treated like you're a black person. You're part Native American too. Oh, you couldn't possibly know what it's like to be treated like a Native American. You're part black. You couldn't possibly know this because you're not gay. And we get to hear this rhetoric. And it's hateful. It is hurtful. It is spiteful. And it comes from a place of being taught hate. It comes from malnourishment of the mind. You call people who think a thought through to its conclusion overthinkers. Anybody who doesn't just accept what they're told is an overthinker. An overthinker. You mean somebody who thinks logically is an overthinker? Somebody who thinks logically, they think differently than you, obviously. And you want to pretend that their wires are crossed. Like there's a short circuit. When you say somebody is wired differently than you, that means differently. Somebody who is more intelligent than you is more intelligent than you. That's as simple as it is. Their wiring works a little different. Obviously, I don't mean literally wiring. That's a figure of speech here in America for those of y'all foreigners. But a lot of people, they want to pretend, they want to go to a autistic misunderstanding that was proven wrong in the 80s and 90s. That we don't get sarcasm or social cues. No, we absolutely do. They just don't make any fucking sense. They make zero sense. We get that you act that way. We know that you are a patterned species as far as neurotypicals go. How everybody is, well, you talk about equality, but you also show actions and beliefs that show you do believe that yourself to be inferior or superior to others. And most of y'all, you have this grace about you out of fear. It's amazing how gracefully you can tiptoe. Linguistically, while playing stupid, like you're too ignorant to understand or you don't know certain things. And then, of course, the moment that any hint of anything comes your direction, you show immediately, you snap to, and you know exactly what to do. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for bullshitting me, and thank you for joining the Sean Show. Please keep your tray tables and seat backs in their upright position, and whatever bullshit goes along with that means. I'm sure there's probably a picture of Britney Spears in a primitive outfit. That's the thing, you guys tend to live in a fantasy world. A world that is completely devoid of reality, and it's amazing that you don't step in every pothole on the way in. Well, that's because you don't actually think it's like that. You know better. You're playing stupid, you're acting stupid, but in reality, you are far more intelligent than you lead on to believe. When you tell me that I shouldn't care what other people think, you show me exactly why I should care what other people think, and you show that you absolutely care what other people think. There's a lot of things that you guys are uncomfortable with. Well, you sure as shit weren't uncomfortable with doing it to me, were you? You weren't uncomfortable with others doing it to me, were you? You were fine with telling me that you were an honest person. You will never lie to me. You will never lie to me. Sean, I promise you I will never lie to you. Blah, 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 blah. And then you get busted lying and want to play victim. Don't play stupid. It's unbecoming. it's disrespectful, and it's, well, outright stupid. I'm not an idiot. If you lie to me, the chances of me catching you lying are pretty darn good. Idiots could catch you guys lying just by spending a few minutes looking. So, keeping that in mind, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your time? What are you doing to try to make this world a better place? Oh, Jesus, that tree. I gotta show you this. That tree over there is damn near sideways. Fuck, it won't focus. Oh my God. Yes. Alright, it's slowed down a little bit and not waving too much. That's the thing about the gusts. You can see where the mountain, well, I guess it's not such great quality, so seeing what's out there ain't gonna work too good, is it? It says it's 416 in my vehicle here, but reality is, let me see, I'll swipe down, it's 1022. Anyway, it's foggy enough out there that you actually can't see the mountains. It looks like same thing in every direction. Low clouds and stuff like that. Alright, it's definitely a pressure front. Anyway, I'm gonna turn off my phone. I'm gonna end this video. I'm gonna hope I don't get messed with. I'm gonna hope that somebody takes it seriously. People tell me that they'll help, and then they blow me off and blow me off and blow me off, and then I speak up eventually. Well, I stay speaking up the entire time. I just eventually am able to dig out the evidence that I need, or eventually able to take the screenshots that I need. A lot of times when I reach out to somebody for the last time, I let them know. I say, hey, you haven't been a friend. Either be a friend or leave. People are hurting me. I've reached out to you repeatedly for help because people are hurting me. And you tell me about how you want to change things and about how you're a social activist. And I don't understand why you can't take a look. And the worst part is I don't understand why you can't call me and talk to me like I'm a human being. See, that was the problem before Natalie died too. People didn't want to talk to me like I was a human being, and certainly didn't want to listen. In person, I was able to communicate well one-on-one, but how many people have the time to talk one-on-one? Over the phone, people don't understand how hard I am trying to normalize so that I am not victimized further. Meanwhile, I am petrified that if I ask for help, that I'll be victimized, or that rather than the person who claims to be my friend listening, they'll end up telling me about all of their problems, sometimes for hours on end. Telling me that being honest about the situation and coming forward doesn't make a difference. But it's the only thing that makes a difference. It's the protocol that is supposed to be followed for a reason. They make these laws so that these people who are most at-risk people in America are not as at great a risk. But still, that risk is greatly amplified by the fact that most of those who are homeless and disabled, they don't have a parent or a guardian who gives a shit. They don't have an advocate except for themselves, and they're not allowed to advocate for themselves, especially if they're homeless or have been called mentally ill. There's supposed to be people when we are abused and we try to turn in our abusers, there's supposed to be people to help us with that process, and they don't. Everybody refuses to look at the evidence. And how can they help you or assist you when they're not looking at that? When they're not looking, they're intentionally making it where it's their word versus mine, or my predator's word versus mine. They're not looking at the evidence, and they're not helping me to turn it in. And it's dumb. It's dumb to believe that that's hell. I've been in my vehicle. I've spent a lot of days in it, driving around to where people said if I go here or I go there, they'll help me, they'll help me, they'll help me, they'll help me, and I invest everything that I have, and it ends up being me just getting screwed again. And I get that a lot of these people don't do it intentionally. I mean, they've got grand plans when they first say it, but then life happens. However, when life happens and you don't speak up about it, that allows the predators to get away. That allows them to pretend and insinuate that nobody cares. And the reality is, if you're not speaking up when they make those claims, then you're showing that you don't care. That you will allow that slander to affect every one of my court dates. You will allow that to affect every single that I will ever have with predators for the rest of my life, until someone cares enough to look at the evidence and speak up. And with a lot of these people, they gotta also admit that they screwed up. That's part of the evidence I have. People's assumptions based on slander, based on situations that I did not choose and was forced into. There's also the things that I actually did, the crimes that I actually broke. You guys want to use that as an excuse to look the other way. Shouldn't have had to break the law, ever. Nobody should have to break the law, especially not a disabled person or a homeless person. Going after the most at-risk people in the country is not acceptable. I needed help stopping abuse. That's what I needed. In order to stop the abuse, I needed to be able to go into court and show it without being threatened, harassed, intimidated, or talked over. And I needed the witnesses to go with me to do that. And many of you are witnesses. And yes, you can do it long distance. You never tried. You wanted to argue. Now there's a lot more people dead. A lot of the evidence has been destroyed, but I still have enough. Just not if nobody cares. They separate me from my loved ones and then slander my name all over the place. And yeah, I've done some pretty desperate shit because of the abuse that I still endure over that. I tell people, hey, you said you were my friend. I got to expose this. Whether you're my friend or not, this is evidence that I told the truth. It's evidence that the cops did not. Well, it's either evidence that the cops lied or it's evidence that you lied. In either case, the person who lied wasn't me. I told both sides. When I told the cops' side, my friends called me liars. Called me a liar because I told the cops' side. When I told their side, the cops called me a liar, claimed I was schizophrenic and bipolar and delusional, and that I needed to be on medications. And then they went around town and told all the other people in town in Chapel, Nebraska, that I'm schizophrenic and that I'm delusional and that I needed to be on medications and refused to take them. Jesus fucking goddamn Christ. Thanks for the help, folks. It's expensive to defend myself, but you want to pretend like I have a choice in the matter. You're right, I do. But I can't say that, because if I do, you'll have me committed. There's two options for stopping this. Either get help from somebody who takes it seriously and actually cares, or give the bullies what they want. The bullies want me to commit suicide. Is that what you want? If you're really my friend, how can you make that claim when you've let people bully me to this point? And for 6 years you haven't cared. How can you call yourself a friend? Good to be rid of you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and no victim left behind.